I'd like to talk today about thought structures. So, first of all, one thought structure that I have, which I think is a good one, is I just did steaming. I do 5 minutes of steaming every day. It supposedly helps with opening up the throat, the lungs. It helps with, preventing coronavirus from getting into you if you got it and it's stuck in your throat or something. So as a preventative measure for the last few months, I've been doing that. It's not official advice or anything. It's just something that I do, and I think people in India do too. So that aside, thought structures are, so what I do with the steaming, I take a kettle, and it's got a spout, right? I turn on the heat, and then just steam comes out. I breathe in, breathe out, try to get it as deep into my lungs and throat as possible. So that's that. So with respect to thought structures, you have conditioned mentalities, whatever they may be. They may have been conditioned by society. They may have been conditioned within your own mind of your own self. They could be bad habits. Those are obvious conditioned mentalities, especially if they have a physical expression like drinking too much alcohol, smoking too many cigarettes, having too many sweets, whatever it may be. That clearly is a thought structure that reflects itself physically and has a physiological response within your body at that point. And there's a whole lot of literature and programs to help you get beyond that. What's more pernicious and more difficult to detect is internal mental thought structures. And it's important to be able to detect that within yourself, because when you don't, you're simply a slave to the exact same thoughts that keep recreating themselves over and over and over and over. They become a cancer of a sort within your own mind. And you just further the same type of thought over and over and over and over. And you don't necessarily learn much beyond a certain point. It becomes repetitive, and then it starts to incite the same types of emotions which you've become addicted to as well, which is the same thing that physical addictions do. They give you a certain type of rush, some type of a tiny bit of euphoria or relief or whatever it may be. Lawnmower, hold on. See there, right there, that's the thought structure. See, I think that, my peace has been disturbed, so I don't want to continue. Let me just pause. Let me wait till this guy finishes. But no, forget that. The idea that the video needs to be completely silent is a thought structure, right? I can now integrate that into what I'm doing and talking about right here. So whatever the thought structure may be, it may be an ideology, it may be a personal history, it may be a victim narrative, it may be a hero's narrative, it may be whatever type of narrative is there that you're building and building and building and building. From a psychological standpoint, you may think that, a victim narrative is bad because it makes you feel bad and it doesn't help you progress. And you may think that a hero's narrative is good because it's something that reflects positive self-esteem. It helps you push to higher ideals. It helps you to project yourself in the world in a better way. It helps you become a better person. And insofar as that is concerned, that is true. A hero's narrative can be good, but that's still an ego form. It's still a personality. It's still a mental concoction that you're concocting, which you're free to do. You're free to take any role that you want. On Earth, you can do whatever you want, so long as you're not interfering with or harming others. But internally, every role that you take is limited. And it can never fully encapsulate who and what you are. As Mufasa says in The Lion King, there's a beautiful scene where he and Simba, he's the king and Simba's his young little prince son. They're looking over the kingdom. He says, everything the sun touches is our land. A king's time rises and falls like the sun. My time will come and it will be over, and then it will be your time. See, he was aware that his role, which he was performing at that time, was his and was temporary. And he was acknowledging that he would cede power to his son at some point, right? And that it would go one way or the other. As it turned out, I think everyone's seen this movie. I don't need to worry about spoiling it, but he gets killed by his uncle, by his brother, his jealous brother, who himself has the idea, I want to be king, 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 I want to be king. And he devises this clever plot to murder Mufasa, so that he could then be the hero, the one who saves the whatever. Or maybe that was a hero mentality, maybe it was a victim mentality. Maybe his victim mentality was, oh, I was looked over, Mufasa got all the goods, Mufasa gets everything, poor me, so let me take it, let me assert it, let me get it myself. It could have been either mentality, we don't know. And the truth is, whichever mentality led to that horrific action is not what's relevant here. What's relevant is that he was so profoundly discontent with himself because he didn't like the distribution of power. He felt that it was unfair, and he felt that, probably in his own heroic mind, that he would be the king undisputed, respected, saluted, and seen for the wonder he was. He wanted it for himself. He wanted to unseat the unfair power structure and then assert himself as the king. And certainly, in the way that he did, he killed his own brother, and then the society went to ruin. He had a lot of thought structures that led to that, because I can tell you, if he wasn't thinking about it, if he didn't have certain structures in place, that wouldn't have happened. So what's important at an individual level is to look inside. No ideology can be so pure that it can't be corrupted by selfish desire. No anything is so good that you can't ruin it yourself, you or a collective. And it's always important to self-reflect, to ensure that atrocities don't occur as per your own hand, that occur unconsciously. So, for example, I was looking at somebody using a computer yesterday, a nice computer. I'm thinking, wow, that's such a nice tool, it's such a beautiful thing that they're using. That person must be so happy they have such a multifaceted, multifarious, beautiful tool in their hand. But it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant what the actual thing is. That person could be plotting evil on that computer. They could be writing victim narratives on that computer. They could be enacting hellishness on that computer, and then using that sophisticated tool to do something bad. We don't know. They could also be using it to do something good. The specific thing itself is irrelevant. The camera I'm using is irrelevant. The guitar I play is irrelevant. My tennis racket's irrelevant. My voice is irrelevant. My everything is irrelevant. The specific thing itself is irrelevant in and of its own self. What matters is what I'm putting into it. What is this thing being used for? And you can never encapsulate that within some ideology or some narrative. It has to be something inside. Something good inside coming out. And then being able to use have your heart, then use your mind to actually enact that correctly. Purely heart-based actions can be very destructive, though they may be good in the short term. Right now, they could be good. They could lead to ruin, though, and that's a topic for another time. But when you have the heart and the mind in service of each other, together, working in unison, working in tandem, and you've cleansed yourself as thoroughly as possible of whatever unconsciousness, whatever ego you may have, you can then become a fantastic instrument of great things. And that always comes from questioning your own thought structures. An example of a thought structure gone wrong is in Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. It's the second movie of the originals. Luke views himself as this hero who's going to kill the big bad guy, kill Darth Vader. And Darth Vader's bad, obviously. He killed Obi-Wan. He's done all sorts of bad things. Vader killed his father, Luke's father. So he wanted to rid the universe of this evil person. And it motivated him to train very hard at the Jedi arts and meditate and learn how to, do combat and physically train himself. So that hero's mentality had a benefit. Every mentality has some benefit. See? But what happened is that when push came to shove, he rushed in too early in order with this grandiose, full of bravado mentality, and then it was completely dismantled by Darth Vader, got his arm cut off, and nearly died. Only then, when he, in the next movie, by the time he had actually self-reflected properly and stopped going in with that type of mentality, was he actually able to bring himself into unison with Vader, to love Vader, to essentially sacrifice himself for his own father. He found out Vader's his father, for his own father. And then Vader himself, his conscience opened. Then he himself essentially killed the Emperor and then died in the process, more or less. And you know what's interesting? Both these characters, Darth Vader and Mufasa, that I referenced in this video, are voiced by James Earl Jones. Same guy. And they're both like these king-like rulers, leaders. He's got that deep baritone voice, and it just lends itself naturally to that role. So the point is, whatever your narratives are, they can be corrupted. Whatever your ideologies or thoughts are, they can be corrupted. And nobody, what you see in others, look to see if you can see it in yourself. If you see others being too domineering, see what you can do internally. See if you're doing that yourself. If you see others being whatever, see if you're doing it yourself. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Be the change you wish to see in your enemies. And then see if you can help your allies uplift themselves too. This is what's going to actually help change the way that things are for the better. And more importantly, it'll help you in your own self, in your own soul, cleanse yourself of impurities, cleanse yourself of fear, and live in a much more heightened and beautiful fashion.